You're welcome back to State of Affairs here on GHOne Television. And MTN Momo is 15 years old, and it's been 15 good years since Momo was launched here in Ghana. And that's why the Momo at 15 reward is here with amazing cash prizes to say thank you. So send money to an MTN Momo user or make payments to an MTN Momo merchant at no cost whatsoever, only on MTN. So download the My Momo app on your phone. That's from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, depending on what phone you are using, and start transacting cash and win some cash. There is up to 450,000 Ghana cedis, which is up for grabs for 165 lucky winners, and you too can be one of them. So just Momo it everywhere you go. This offer runs from now till November. Do remember that terms and conditions apply. And of course, always remember that MTN is definitely everywhere you go. We're just about to get into our conversation this evening here on State of Affairs, and we've been joined via Zoom by former Auditor-General Daniel Yao Domelevo. I believe it is safe to also call him an anti-corruption campaigner. Good evening. Welcome to State of Affairs here on GHOne TV.
Good evening. I hope you and your listeners, you are all doing well.
Yes, I believe that we are all doing well this evening, and we're grateful that you've joined us here via Zoom for us to have this conversation on the sacrifice of corruption in Ghana. From where you sit and the work that you have done over the years, what would you say it takes to fight corruption in a country like Ghana, where corruption is endemic?
Well, fighting corruption is not an easy job in any country, and Ghana is not alone, but it's quite disturbing, the state or the level of corruption we are experiencing, especially in the public sector these days. What it takes to fight corruption is commitment and leadership. The laws are there, yes, but if you are not committed to it, you may not be able to fight corruption, especially when we are in a society where people think that the end justifies the means. So once you make money from public service, it doesn't matter how you made the money, you are hailed as a hero, then it becomes very difficult. But with discipline and integrity, one should be able to say no to corruption.
We live in a country where it seems as though corruption has become part of our everyday lives. It seems to have become very normal. For example, for you to go to, say, the passport office, give someone a little money, and they're able to fast track the process for you, or for you to go to the birth and death registry and you're trying to get a new birth certificate done, and then you drop an envelope, or if to have some service done, and then you give an envelope to somebody, or maybe you meet a police officer on the road and you have had a road infraction and you just give them something small and then they go, just so that they don't waste your time. We live in a country where these things seem to have become normal and we live with it and it is part of us. What makes you so passionate about wanting to fight corruption, where majority of people seemingly seem to have accepted some of these little things as the norm?
Well, let me first and foremost say that those little things you are asking for or you have mentioned, such as the police may require some money from you for an infraction, a traffic infraction, passport, you may have to pay somebody, or driving license, etc. Those are all symptoms of system failures, which can be fixed. Those ones are no problem. They are easily curable. They can easily be cured. For instance, if we come out with a system for applying for passport, said that there is no human interface, you just pay the correct amount of money, and on the exact date, the system works. Nobody will be ready to pay any bribe or any additional money. The same way, if also the policing system is changed, I think nobody will be ready to pay that money. Go to countries which are not as even developed as Ghana, like Malawi or Zimbabwe, Zambia, etc. You see that everybody knows, and it is published in the press, in the newspapers, that if you jump red light, it is this amount. If you overspeed and you are caught, it is this amount, etc. And anytime you are caught by the police, you know how much you are going to pay. So you just pay the money, and it is not so big. It is only when you disagree, that is when the two of you may go to court. But in Ghana, we are so backward. Up to today, somebody jumps traffic light, they seize his vehicle and say that we are going to send you to court. Maybe for 1 week you are going to court, only to be fined maybe 100 or 200 Ghana cedis. So it's because the system is inefficient and it's so painful to go through it. That's why people are paying those bribes. But if the system is efficient and they publish to say you jump red light is 50 Ghana cedis, you overspeed 50 Ghana cedis, you do this 100 Ghana cedis, many decent Ghanaians will not pay those bribes. But they know what it is not to pay those monies to the police officers because of the system failure. So those can easily be cured. And how are those systems going to be cured? It is the grand corruption at the top which is allowing those things to continue. That is, if leadership at the public sector is minded to do the right thing, those systems can easily be fixed. And I was positioning today that who determines what is right and wrong in the country is the public sector. That is why I don't concentrate too much on the private sector, because I know that even though it is said that the private sector is the engine of growth, and I agree that economic growth truly depend upon the private sector. But I also argue that the engine, the fuel on which the private sector engine runs is the public sector. Because even you and I, it is only the public sector who can identify you as a Ghanaian or a matured Ghanaian and having the right to travel by giving you passport, etc., before you can do anything. Even business, if public sector doesn't register your business or give you the license, you can't operate a business. You can't import, you can't export without a public sector. Even your land, to get title of it, you need the public sector. So we need a public sector which functions well. And if public sector functions well, it cascades down to the private sector. Countries where there is so much discipline and lower levels of corruption, it is because the governance arrangement in the country is perfect and good. And governance arrangements are not good until systems are put in place. So when people talk about we need strong institutions or systems, yes, we need them. But institutions and systems, they don't grow on the field like how grass grows on a field. It is human beings who put them in place. So we need a type of leadership who would like to put these things in place. That is the reason why I keep fighting fighting against corruption.
You talk about the type of leadership that we need to be able to do this. What do you see now, especially in the run-up to the elections, where we have various political parties and others who want to run for office, who have put forth their plans for the people of Ghana? Do you see anything concrete in, say, the NDC's manifesto, the NPP's manifesto, perhaps the Great Transformation Plan of Alan, or whoever? Do you see the corruption conversation as something which is central, something which they are focusing on, or is it something that we're just touching and going from where you sit?
Yeah, if you look at all the manifestos, they all touch on corruption. But you see, it is not just an issue of rhetorics or promises. If you look at the what do you call it, the NPP manifesto, it mentioned that they will consolidate all the laws on corruption. They will introduce lifestyle audit. Fantastic. But we need to see the law, what exactly they are going to say in the law. So they could have helped us by putting some more details to say that we are going to do lifestyle audit only on past government officials, or on only ministers, or on only what do you call it, legislature. So we need a bit more details, because they say the devil is in the details. So on the surface of it, it looks good, and I don't have much problem with it. Unless we see the details, we will not know how far it is going to send us. On the NDC side, they are a bit more specific, mentioning some type of recoveries and some investigations which will be done, which is also good. But you see, all these are promises. Of course, Alan also made some promises the same way, but these are all promises. We want to wait, we want to see how it comes. It will be good. They tell us that, look, guys, we have made this promise. This is how you should measure us. We are going to deliver it by this date. So by this date, if you don't see this, we have failed, something of that nature. I hope you know that we are in a country where we were told boldly that I'll put my presidency on the line in fighting Galamsey. As Galamsey says stop, I think if my answer is correct, then I will say it is getting worse than what it was. So the promises can be good and very exciting, but then what action follows is what we need. So yes, they may promise, but then it is not enough. What we expect them is to tell us what exactly they are going to do, and how do we assess their failure or their success, and by what date are they doing what. And they must be specific. For instance, will we continue selling public properties, government land, government vehicle, government whatever, to public officers? So they have to say, no, we are coming out with a law to stop this. We are going to ban this. We are not going to have a situation where a minister can engage his whole family into his business, or the president will appoint a brother or sister, etc. to
Well,
them. We need
on that particular
specifics, because
score, we have a member of parliament for North Tongue, Samuel Kujeto Ablako. I believe that you've heard this. He's proposing that there should be a law which stops any politically exposed person or any state official, government appointee, from acquiring any state property, for example. And that's something that he seriously wants to push. And this is something that the NDC, for example, have said that if they are given the mandate to come into office, they will do. So I mean, that's something that you actually support, you throw your weight behind?
Yes, I partly support it. Why I say partly is because, in principle, I agree with it. But I would have wished that whatever he's suggesting goes into the Conduct of Public Office Holders Act. There is a bill already for public office holders, their conduct. And that bill talks about asset declaration, a whole lot of things, including receiving of gift and etc. So I think that's where it should go, so that we have a more comprehensive law, instead of one law prohibiting acquisition of government properties. Then another law may come later on to talk about gift, receiving of gift. Then another law comes later on to tell us about conflict of interest, employing family and friends. But we have all that in the what do you call Conduct of Public Office Holders Bill. So there's a bill already. I think they should address that bill with those additions, and we will be home and dry.
Right. So when it comes to the fight against corruption, as far as this administration is concerned, I remember that when you were Auditor General, there were times where you commended the government and you commended the president for giving you the necessary resources and the support to be able to do your work as Auditor General and do it well. I mean, eventually there were issues of you going on leave and your age and whatever, and you were taken out of office, but you still continued with, the corruption fight and the crusade. At this particular point where President Akufo-Addo is just finishing his term, how would you rate the fight against corruption under this administration?
Well, the fight against corruption under this administration, to me, is a Bismarck failure. It's a Bismarck performance. It's not anything to write home about. Yes, I commend the government and the presidency for putting up institutional arrangements and providing funding. But you see, my brother, let me tell you something. Corruption, just as wasteful spending, they all deny citizens the benefit of public funds. So if you set up even the Office of Anti-Graft Institutions, or you push more money into auditing, and at the end of the day, all that we see is the audit report telling us about how much has been wasted. In fact, it's better you didn't even put that money there. So putting the money there, actually, I was very happy that that happened, because I knew I was going to go out by myself to hold people accountable. And I was also thinking that the government was also going to join me in the same thing, because otherwise I didn't see the reason why they should put money there. But it didn't happen. Anytime we disallow and surcharge anyone, I copied the Attorney General, because I saw it as a potential causing financial loss or fraudulent or criminal case. But none of them did the Attorney General show interest in. I remember even before leaving office, I once wrote to the Office of the Attorney General to say, under the Public Financial Management Act, you are supposed to write every year a report to Parliament, updating Parliament on actions you have taken on Auditor-General's report, as well as recommendations from the Public Accounts Committee or Parliament, from Parliament on Public Accounts Committee's findings. And the law says that you should give a copy of that report to the Auditor General. But I have not received any copy. So can you share my copy with me? Because if you have sent it, I've not received it. Up to today, I have not received any feedback on it. So that is how it goes. It's not just a matter of two things that are not the solutions. One is building additional institutions is not a solution to the fight against corruption. Two, funding anti-graft institutions is not the solution. What solves the problem is strengthening these institutions, funding them, and then their findings are taken seriously and people are held accountable. I keep saying, once there are no consequences for misbehavior, misbehavior will continue. So holding people accountable, government officials, you don't even need to go to court. You say, Daniel, I'm told that you collected 20,000 and you didn't bring it back. Provide me with evidence that you brought it. If Daniel is not able to give you that, say, okay, leave the office, I've sacked you. Go and answer your offenses. Others will behave immediately. So that's why I said the drive is, the performance is bismarck, because leadership has not shown that example. We don't need to necessarily prosecute people or go to court, but leadership can show seriousness.
What are some of the particular things that you've seen under this administration that make you very disappointed? I mean, you had high expectations, but it's just made you very disappointed and just makes you come to the realization that, like you said, leadership is not serious about the corruption fight.
Yeah, the things that I saw, first and foremost, was that my hopes were very high. Prior to the 2016 election, the president made it very clear that if you wanted to make money, then you have no room in his administration. Go to the private sector. Then I was at the World Bank. I shared it among many colleagues. I said, look, Ghana is going to make it. Now we have the right person. And then the mantra, I shall protect the public purse. I say, yes, that is it. We are going to go. And a whole lot of other. On the other hand, my hopes even increased when they started giving more money to the Auditor General and the anti-graft institutions, because I know, yeah, people are going to be held accountable. But after that it seems it was relaxed and there was nothing. And when I was actually holding public officials accountable and most of the people happened to be within the previous regime, I was the darling boy of the president. He meets me and says, keep doing your work. In fact, if you read the State of the Nation Address 2018, as well as his address at the Independence 6 March 2018, you will see that Auditor General was praised in both addresses for saving the country over 5 billion Ghana cedis for the disallowance that happened. But then when it was time to hold his people accountable, then the problem started. And I thought that is not how to do it. But forget about my views about the fight against corruption. Look at the corruption perception index, how we are performing. We are at 43. But 43 is a failure zone. We have not reached a pass mark zone. It's a failure zone. And we have stagnated at a failure zone. We have not even been able to improve it a bit. To move to 44, not to talk about 45. I think that is not acceptable. Notwithstanding the fact that we have established a full office of the special prosecutor and we say we are pushing more money into the anti-graft institutions. It's a wasteful expenditure then.
Is there anything in particular you think that this administration can do before its tenure ends to redeem itself as far as the corruption fight is concerned?
Exactly. I actually say that the goals you score in the last minute of a football match at times are even sweeter at times than the earlier goals. I hope you know goals scored usually in the extra, extra time. They are very, very, very sweet. So this is the time that the government can demonstrate goodwill to the people and say, no, we are sorry. Things have not gone well. We've heard the complaints of the people. We are going to hold some few people accountable. Those who have taken monies cited in Auditor General's report and other reports, investigative journal reports that have come out, we make sure that they return the monies We are all aware and have heard of several grabbing of government properties. The list is there. Government should just call them and say, no, bring back the assets. We give your money to you. Let's keep these assets for the government. They were acquired for the use of government. And I think if they start doing those things, people will see that there is a change of heart. And we may even forget about what happened in the past. But then, if it persists, I think it will be very unfortunate. If I were the president, these remaining 4 months or I think 4 months, September, October, November, December, yeah, we have these 4 months. I will use it to reverse or rewrite some of the wrongs, so that by the time I leave office, you will all be hailing me.
Do you see some of the systems that we have in place, and I believe that you've touched on a little bit of it, do you see some of the systems that we have in place as problematic? For example, in the public sector, where corruption seemingly is endemic, you talk about the fact that if we're able to make people pay, we're able to, sack people and all of that, we'll be able to deal with some of these things because it will serve as a deterrent. But there's this school of thought that, especially in the public sector, you can't just, get up and sack somebody. Maybe if you're an MD of a company, you can't just sack somebody. It has to go through a certain long process, and the bureaucracies are just too much. And so it makes the whole thing cumbersome, and it makes the corruption fight difficult. How would you respond to that school of thought?
That is the fallacy. It's not true. There's no law in the public sector which protects somebody who has gotten himself involved in any of those corruption acts, misbehaviors. No. Actually, all those misbehaviors are punishable in the public sector. The will or the reluctance to implement it is another thing. But then there are rules. The public sector is not a jungle, as people normally like us to believe. It is not. There are rules and regulations. Who will enforce them is the problem. It's not because there are no rules. So if the government actually hears that I have embezzled money today, the rule is very simple. I can be interdicted or I can be suspended and subject to investigation. When the investigation happens and you are found guilty, you are sacked and you go and face your whatever trial there is. So it is not true as people would like us to believe that the public sector is a jungle. No, you can't just misbehave. The reason why people can misbehave and get away with it is because the leadership themselves are also misbehaving. So if you and I, we connive in doing the wrong, can you hold me accountable? I think no. That is the point. If I were to be doing it alone, you can hold me accountable. So it is never true. Whoever says that, I've worked almost all my life, people don't know. They think that I came to Ghana as the Auditor General. I worked in Accountant General's department for 18 good years. 18 good years. I was in charge of the payroll, and I did a whole lot of initiatives in Accountant General. So I know public sector very well. It is not true that it's a jungle. People are sacked anytime that they misbehave. It's only those who have godfathers because they are sinning together with the top. They are the people who you cannot push out. So that notion, let's correct it about the public sector, it's not true.
So is the appointments, then the problem? Let's say the political heads that are appointed to some of these, departments and agencies, state-owned enterprises, and what have you. Is that then where the problem is coming from?
Exactly. Many of them, you see, the problem we have in Ghana is that because you appointed me, I start having my allegiance to you, or I think I must be loyal to you. And even the appointer, the one who makes the appointment, expects that you should be loyal to me. And even, sadly, the office of the president is made up of lawyers, but that is the mindset of the presidency itself. If you remember, when I challenged the president in asking me to go on leave, that's what they came back to me and said, that is the president who appointed you, and whoever appoints you can also remove you. Whilst the Constitution says the Auditor General's removal is in line with Article 146. So just how you remove the justice of the Supreme Court, that's how you remove Auditor General. But then they ignore it. That's why I said earlier on, some time ago, that the office of the president was at the forefront of illegalities. So it is the office. In fact, somebody was saying at a function we attended today that when a fish is going to get rotten, it is from the head. So when the leadership of any institution become lawless and decide to condone and connive with corrupt practitioners, then there's nothing we can do. But if they say no, I'm telling you, the rules are there. People think public sector, there are no rules. I beg to differ. There are a lot of rules. You ask any public sector institutions, they will give you their conditions of service, their scheme of service, code of conduct. There are so many rules, including the laws. Like if you go to a place like audit service, there is an audit service act, there is an audit service regulation. How many people how many private institutions have got laws and regulations or act of parliament and regulations? So public sector is highly regulated. It's only that people have overlooked the laws.
Now, earlier you talked about, investigations and all of that. One of the things that President Akufo-Addo has said is that, well, anytime there has been an allegation of corruption against any of his appointees, he has caused there to be investigations into these matters, and the investigations have come out with no concrete evidence against any of his appointees. And he said that he's not going to set aside due process just because somebody has made allegations against any of his appointees. He will let the appropriate agencies investigate. I mean, surely that's something that we should commend the president for, isn't it?
I like that. I wish we can commend him for that. Because, you see, there's something we call taking the boss. You can do something just to represent something in order to take the boss. That is not what we are talking about. Remember the Cecilia Dapa's case. What didn't he do? He referred the case to the OSP for investigation. Is that not the case? And what did he tell Cecilia Dapa when she was handing over? He said, you and I, we know that at the end of the investigation, your integrity will be intact. So he knew what was going to happen. And so are you surprised that as we are today, we don't know the state of investigation, whether there's going to be a prosecution or not, or whatever it is. So, excuse me, we know the rules of the game. Yes, you can actually order investigation properly to ensure that if there are wrongdoings, there will be prosecution as a result of that. You can also order investigation just to tick the box. And we know the difference. We can read between the lines. Thank you.
I mean, is the OSP therefore powerless, when it comes to dealing with these things, because he's appointed by the president? There's probably pressure to do things in a certain way. I mean, does that make the office of the special prosecutor in a way redundant?
His office is not redundant. Let me be honest and tell you that I was one of those who were against the establishment of that office in the first place. When the bill was proposed, I was then in office as Auditor-General. I was against it because I thought we had enough, anti-graft or anti-corruption institutions. If it is the mandate, which was not enough, give it to one of them and resource them so that they can do the work. Because establishing a new institution costs a lot of money. I've forgotten how much they have spent on the OSP establishing just the head office. Imagine they are going to roll out to 16 regional offices, into the 16 regions, and also to the 261 districts. It's a huge sum of money. So I thought that, no, we just have to look at one of the anti-graft institutions, if it is Yoko or if it is Shraj or whatever, amend their mandate and then give it to them. But of course, the president had promised that during the political campaign, so he established it. And I said to myself, well, if that is what it takes for us to fight corruption, why not? So you notice when Martin Amidu was appointed as the SP, I actually came together with him. We even had a joint press conference to say we are collaborating to work because we think the method of fighting corruption should not be a stumbling block for us. The most important thing is that we win the battle. So I didn't have any problem with that. And of course, Kisei Jabin has also come in and he's doing his best. And I think the gentleman has to be commended. But what you hear is frustration. Martin complained that he was being frustrated and bowed out. Kisei Jabin also comes in and tells us that even the courts are frustrating his work. I don't think this is right. So I'm not saying that the office of the special prosecutor is redundant, but if I have my way, I will have combined that office and that of Yoko and give them the higher level of mandate to ensure that they can investigate everything in relation to corruption, money laundering, and etc., and have the prosecutory power that the OSP have today. so that we don't have to replicate those offices. Yoko is already in the regions and the districts. So if we combine the two and headed by one person, I think that will also save us some money. But I will not say that the office of the special prosecutor is not doing well. So far, so good. I think that is about the only institution, from my point of view, which is serious about the fight against corruption.
Now, over the years, we've talked about the corruption fight. We've had instances where there has been zero tolerance for corruption. I mean, later on, we hear corruption is as old as Adam. I mean, we come into a place where, presidents are saying that we're going to fight corruption with all our might. People institute anti-corruption plan or a NACAP. Somebody comes in and says that, well, if you want to be you want to make money, then my government is not for you. Go to the private sector. All kinds of things are done. Office of the Special Prosecutor set up, and the corruption conversation continues to go on, and nothing seemingly changes whatsoever. Right up till this point, we are still having the corruption discussion. So, can we realistically win this fight against corruption? Can anything be done about it? Is there a political will on either side of the political divide to do something about corruption? Or do we throw our hands up in the air and give up?
No, we can never throw our hands into the air and give up. Remember, I told you people that when you fight corruption, corruption fights back.
Yes.
Even as we're fighting corruption, see what corruption is doing to us. And you are talking about the levels, how it is getting from bad to worse. So what do you think will happen if we give up and say we won't fight corruption anymore? It's just like the Ministry of Health announcing that we are no more going to fight diseases. I hope you know that we have not overcome diseases anywhere in this world yet. Diseases are still with us, even though we are fighting every time. New ones keep coming, we fight them, and another one comes, we keep fighting. That is how corruption is. Corruption is multifaceted and very dynamic, and is very easy. It's very difficult to just overcome corruption. So we have to continue fighting it. But then the fight becomes much easier when the leadership is serious with that, not the rhetorics. Like you said, people are saying zero tolerance, then some will come back and say, oh, it is as old as Adam. Some say if you want money, don't join my government. At the end of the day, say, hey, I'm not going to be holding people accountable just on the mere basis of allegations. We need evidence. Even when the evidence is there, we don't hear anything. No. But then people have gone to jail before. People have been sentenced for causing financial loss and etc. to the state. What about what is happening today, where millions of monies are being paid? And we don't have the evidence of that. You mean to say that all that the Auditor-General is reporting to us are not correct? I hope you read the COVID report from the Auditor-General. Thereafter, he has issued several reports. Forget about the reports issued during my time and talk about the current Auditor-General. You read his report. It is full of several things. I heard of ambulance, National Ambulance Commission Authority or whatever it is, so many millions being paid, amounts which are higher than even the cost of the ambulance being paid for cost of spare parts and whatnot, etc. And President is telling us what? I think this is what I keep saying, that when people assume political office, they should not take the others to become daft people or people who cannot think through what they are being told. So they should credit us with some knowledge at least. It is a leadership problem. We have not yet come across a leader who is truly committed to fighting corruption.
You're still watching State of Affairs here on GHOne Television. I'm having a conversation with Daniel Yao Domelevo. He's former Auditor General, and he's also an anti-corruption campaigner. And we've been talking about the sacrifice of corruption in Ghana. Of course, earlier today, I believe that there was a program that was held in that regard. We'll come back and talk a little bit about it. We'll take a very short break here. When we return, we'll continue our conversation. It's going all the way till 10. But we're reminding you that MTN Momo is 15 years old. It's been 15 years since MTN Momo was launched in Ghana. And so with Momo at 15, there are rewards and prizes that are here for you, just so that MTN can say thank you. So if you are an MTN Momo user, just keep on making your transactions. Download the app from the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store. That's the My Momo app. And keep on transacting. Up to 450,000 Ghana cedis in cash is up for grabs. 465 lucky winners. And you can be one of them. So just Momo it everywhere you go. And the offer is running from now till November. And remember that terms and conditions apply. Stay tuned. This is State of Affairs. We'll be right back. Welcome back to State of Affairs here on GHOne Television. And we're still reminding you that Momo is 15 years old. It's been 15 years since Momo was launched in Ghana. And that is why Momo at 15 is coming your way with a lot of amazing goodies and a lot of amazing prizes that you can win. And for this particular period, you can send money to an MTN Momo user or make payments to an MTN Momo merchant at no cost whatsoever, only on MTN. Download the My Momo app on your phone, keep transacting and win some cash. Up to 450,000 Ghana cedis is up for grabs for 165 lucky winners. And you can be one of them. So just Momo it everywhere you go. And remember that the offer is from now till November. So don't miss out on it. Keep on doing your transactions with MTN Momo. And you know that MTN Momo is everywhere you go. Now, because of Momo, everything has been made so easy. You can make your payments easily. You can send money easily. Life has just become so easy. So make sure that you are continuing to do your transactions on MTN Momo all the way through till November, and you could stand a chance of winning an amazing prize from MTN. But do remember that terms and conditions apply. Just Momo it everywhere you go. We'll have to be wrapping up today's edition of State of Affairs here on GHOne Television. We've been speaking to Daniel Yao Domelevo. He is former Auditor-General, and he's also an anti-corruption campaigner. We've been talking about the corruption fight, the sacrifice of corruption in Ghana, and he's been highlighting and talking about some of the things that we can do to make sure that the corruption fight is won. We should not give up on the corruption fight. There's still a lot more that needs to be done. We need to continue to fight it because corruption really will never go away, and we need to be consistent when it comes to putting up a fight against corruption. And this is the message essentially that he has shared with us this evening here on State of Affairs. And so we here at State of Affairs are also calling on everybody to be a part of the corruption fight. And let's make sure that our leaders are doing whatever is necessary to make sure that we win the fight. Because a country that continues to be engulfed in corruption is not a country that will prosper. It's not a country that will progress. It's a country that citizens will continue to suffer. If we don't take a stand and if we don't take the corruption fight seriously, we'll continue to wallow in poverty as a country. The amount of monies that are lost to corruption in this country alone is in the billions of cedis. You take a look at the Auditor-General's report and you realize all the infractions that are in there and all the monies that have gone down the drain and all the monies that cannot be accounted for, monies that were supposed to be used for various projects and implementation of various policies. These are monies that we cannot find, monies that have gone down the drain. And so we cannot give up on the corruption fight. We need to continue with the corruption fight and make sure that it is won. We can do it as a country. This is where we'll end State of Affairs here on GHOne Television. Before I go though, let me just take this opportunity and say happy birthday to our very own Edem Kojo, one of the producers here on State of Affairs. He's also on our business desk and our research desk and our political desk. Edem Kojo, happy birthday to you. Live long and prosper. We also want to say happy birthday to Prince Essien, who is one of our own here at GHOne Television too in the newsroom. On that note, we'll wrap up State of Affairs here on GHOne Television. My name is Lantam Papanko. Have a good evening.